One of the companies that I think is being dramatically overlooked by the market right now is MGM Resorts. The company owns about half of the Las Vegas Strip. It has two casinos in Macau, and it's become just a cash flow machine in the casino industry. There's not a lot of major investment going on in the casino industry today. Remember, a couple of decades ago, we were building new casinos, multi-billion-dollar casinos in the Las Vegas Strip on a regular basis. Then a lot of that construction moved to Macau, where again, you're spending billions of dollars to build new casinos. There's been two new casinos finished on the Las Vegas Strip recently, but both of those actually started construction before the financial crisis. So there aren't a lot of new projects that are coming to the market, whether you're looking at Las Vegas or Macau, where there's even more stringent regulations on how many casinos can be built. So this has become a cash flow business. And one of the best cash flow companies is MGM Resorts. And I think the company is set up for not only a phenomenal quarter in the fourth quarter when that's reported later in February, but also a strong 2024. So I'm going to dig into the numbers today and show exactly the trends that we know have already happened in Macau and Las Vegas and what those revenue numbers look like. My name is Travis Hoium. Thanks for watching Asymmetric Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube for all my content. And thanks to this video sponsor, The Motley Fool. If you go to fool.com/ASYM, they're going to give you their top 10 stocks to buy right now. I'm going to start with some overviews of MGM Resorts because when you look at where the company has come over the last few years and the trends in the third quarter, then when we layer on the numbers that we know from the fourth quarter, I think we're set up for a really good end of the year. This first chart is just simply MGM Resorts revenue. And the reason I want to start here is I think it puts into context exactly how the company has recovered from the pandemic. You can see that it was growing a little bit before the pandemic, and then you have this huge dip in 2020, and the recovery after the pandemic has exceeded any of the revenue that they had pre-pandemic. And almost all of that recovery has been in Las Vegas. I'll get to those numbers in just a second, but Las Vegas has overshot where it was performing in 2019 and early in 2020. And it seems to be that Las Vegas is sustaining those revenue numbers. So casino companies are going to be leveraged to the assets that they've already built. So any incremental dollar in revenue is going to flow disproportionately to the bottom line into free cash flow. So this increase in revenue is just phenomenal for their business long term. This revenue growth has translated to really strong operating cash flow and ultimately free cash flow. You can see that over the past year, MGM has generated $1.5 billion worth of free cash flow, and that should improve as Macau improves. I'll get to those numbers in just a second. But this is really what you want to see from this business. MGM's market cap is about $15 billion right now. It does have debt on the balance sheet, but not a significant amount of debt compared to what it was maybe a decade ago, as it sold off most of its real estate, sold those at relatively high prices when interest rates were lower, to REITs and primarily Vici, the public company that you can buy to own the real estate assets behind most of the gambling industry. But this is really where you want to see growth, is in this free cash flow number. So let's look now at some of the segments and where this revenue comes from. I'm going to start with revenue, and you can see here the increase in revenue in Las Vegas. And that is really the big step change over the last couple of years. And it seems like it's going to continue with another strong quarter in Las Vegas in the fourth quarter. And the blue column, which is regional casinos, just is very steady. I don't think we're going to expect a lot of growth there. But what I want you to pay attention to is the orange column. The orange column is Macau, what they call MGM China. So MGM owns a little over 50% of MGM China and basically just takes a dividend. That's how they structure this business, is the cash flow is just turned into a dividend to MGM. But revenue on a trailing 12-month basis has still not recovered from 2019 levels. And the reason for that is China didn't fully open its economy and travel until early in 2024. So the pandemic that impacted the US primarily in 2020 and then again in 2021 really started to open up in 2022. China was well behind that, much more stringent restrictions on economic activity, on travel outside of mainland China and then to Macau. So that's how, and most of the customers who were going to Macau are coming from mainland China. So this is the revenue numbers. Let's look at the EBITDA numbers, which is a proxy for cash flow coming from these resorts. This is the EBITDA from each of these segments. And again, EBITDA, cash flow, net income is going to be leveraged to the revenue in these resorts. And that's why you see EBITDA jumping about 2x from 2019 to the last 12 months, despite the fact that revenue did not jump quite that much because there's leverage, there's operating leverage in this business. But again, you see that leverage is really strong in the US in both on the strip and then in regional resorts, but it's not at MGM China. It's actually been negative in 2020 and 2022, slightly positive in 2021, and then is starting to turn around in 2023, but still not at the levels that it was in 2019. We should start to see that improve, and I'll get to those numbers in just a second when we look at the direct data that has come out of Macau. But this is the context behind why I'm so excited about MGM Resorts is the leverage in the business is just phenomenal. And I think as Macau starts to overshoot where it was pre-pandemic, we should see even stronger cash flow in that region. And Macau is the biggest gaming market in the world by about 5 or 6 times, at least pre-pandemic, compared to the Las Vegas Strip. So that's really where the money is going to be coming from. Thanks to our friends at The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/ASYM for the top 10 stocks to buy right now. This is a look at the monthly gross gambling revenue in Macau. And this comes out every month, a day or two after the month ends. And you can see just the increase in revenue throughout 2023. And so this left half of the chart is the monthly gross revenue. And then the right half of the chart is accumulated gross revenue. So it's just adding up each of these months throughout the year. You can see that 2022, very low compared to the 18,500 number where we are in December 2023. So you start at about a third of that, and then later in the year, you get to close to a tenth of that. I mean, these lockdowns in China were really intense in parts of 2022. But then in 2023, things start to open up. And these are in Macanese patakas. So keep that in mind. These are not US dollars. But we go from 11,580 all the way up to 18,567. On a full year basis, revenue in 2023, gambling revenue in 2023 was up 334%, just a phenomenal increase. And so keep in mind kind of these ranges. This bounces around month to month, just like it does on the Las Vegas Strip. But if I go to even January of 2024, you can see that revenue in January was even better than it was in December, up 67% year over year. Macau is definitely starting to recover. Now, it's not quite where it was pre-pandemic, but it's getting really close. And so casinos like MGM's casinos should start to see really strong results in the fourth quarter and into 2024. In Las Vegas, you're also seeing some pretty good trends. This is the Nevada Gaming Control Board's report for the Las Vegas Strip area. And the numbers to pay attention to here are a couple of things. This is split into thirds. Current month on the left, 3 months, a quarter's worth of reporting is in the middle, and then 12 months on the right. You can see right down here that last year's gaming win was up 7.4%. So 2022 record year in Las Vegas. 2023 was even better. The final 3 months of the year were actually up 11.5%. So another really good month. The one thing that I will note is there is probably some outliers here in this number right here. And this is Baccarat. This is typically a very high-end game. Almost all of Macau's gaming revenue comes from Baccarat. And it's become much more important on the Las Vegas Strip, particularly in those high-end kind of back rooms. Isn't something you see on a traditional casino floor all that much. That's where you're mostly going to see things like blackjack, which is right here, or craps. But where the real money is made is in those back rooms. So Baccarat was up 83% in the fourth quarter. That's maybe not sustainable, but you did have things like the Formula One race during that period of time. So that's why you see a 23% jump in table game win during the fourth quarter. But that's going to translate to really good results for MGM in the fourth quarter. So you add all of this up, and I think MGM is set up for a very strong fourth quarter and another really good year in 2024. The other thing I want to note is that the balance sheet is much, much better than it was a number of years ago. This is a look at debt and then the cash on the balance sheet. MGM has a significant amount of cash, is now starting to use that to buy back stock and pay down debt. So the most recent numbers are $6.5 billion worth of debt, $3.3 billion worth of cash, and we're going to see more cash flow coming into the business as Macau improves and as we see these really strong numbers out of Las Vegas. So about a $15 billion market cap, a company that's generating $1.5 billion worth of cash and growing. I think that cash generation could potentially double over the next couple of years. I mean, this is a very attractive and very undervalued stock. And keep in mind that MGM has another casino coming to Japan, likely around 2030. They're just getting started on that, so it's quite a ways away, but that could be the most profitable casino in the world when it's completed. MGM will own about 40% of that casino, but I think that is just pure upside. May take a while for that to actually materialize, but that could be a meaningful impact on the bottom line as well. So I think a lot to like about MGM Resorts, kind of one of those stocks that's hiding in plain sight because a lot of people know the casinos that MGM owns, they're familiar with the business, but may not be familiar with how strong the Las Vegas Strip is right now and how quickly Macao is improving. The stock hasn't gone much of anywhere over the past year, but I think that's going to change in 2024. But what do you think of MGM Resorts right now? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to Asymmetric Investing. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you here next time.